This is Hannibal and a very tired Piper here from the HannibalTV.com with a daily wrestling news update for you. Vince McMahon made the cover of the Wall Street Journal today. Uh, Basically, they did a story about him retiring among a big scandal. The guy is, I don't know if he's quite 77, but he's close to 77. And yes, he apparently had affairs to which he paid millions of dollars in hush money for. But I think his accomplishments in wrestling will far overshadow that as time goes on. I don't think I think this will be a thing for a while, but people will forget about it after a while. And just like Ric Flair, who was kind of shunned for about 6 months or so, I think the heat will eventually get off Vince. But yeah, I'm kind of neutral to that whole thing because it wasn't rape or anything from what I understand. And the women reportedly got millions of dollars in hush money. So Smackdown was actually up. It did a zero point 0.6 rating last night, which was their highest rating since June 17th, which was the day Vince McMahon appeared on SmackDown following the announcement he was stepping away as chairman and CEO. Well, the board of directors investigated his alleged misconduct. Now, of course, now he's retired, and Johnny Ace, who was head of talent relations and was also involved in this scandal, he's been replaced by interimly Bruce Pritchard, and now Triple H has that role. So it looks like Johnny Ace will probably be gone too. Could we see Vince McMahon in AEW? Who knows? Write it in the comments. That would be funny. Apparently, Gerald Briscoe sent out a tweet that said, quote, "To be clear, the allegations of workplace misconduct are very serious and disappointing to me. I applaud the board for holding people accountable for their actions," end quote. So that's a little bit of an odd one from Briscoe. Jay-Z says Vince was the higher power. And Tony, oh, by the way, I just did an interview with Harvey Whippleman that was really good. I would suggest people look it up. It was better than I expected. People have been asking for him for a while. I got him for you. Other shoot interviews I have coming up: Jimmy Garvin, possibly another Ken Patiro one. Still working on finalizing that. Tony Gurria, Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, and others. So you guys have been wanting me to do more shoot interviews. I'm doing more. Antonio says he doesn't see anything wrong with what Vince did. He paid for it, and I mean it was consensual. So, I mean, whoever leaked it, I don't know the whole situation, but it's a big corporation. Vince still owns like 80% of the stock. And it's his daughter who's the CEO now and son-in-law, head of talent relations. And supposedly he might still have some type of role in creative, though he won't be head of creative anymore. So it's not like he'll ever fully retire. He'll always have his hand in it, whether officially or unofficially. Nutrition first executive second, says so many wrestling fans pretending to care because it's Vince, and they all do it to virtue signal. Well, we all make mistakes, but from what I understand, him and Linda actually haven't been together for many years. I think they're still officially married, but as a couple, apparently they're no longer together. So who knows? That's what the chatter is, anyways. So if they broke up because she found out about these, because obviously if they're married and he's making these millions of dollars in payoffs, the wife's going to find out about it, or if they broke up for other reasons, who knows? Chris says WWE stock went up Friday after the news broke. I heard that they put the news out right when the stock market closed. So that was the report I got. Monster Zero says, wonder what the Bella twins think about Johnny Ace now being married to their mother. I'm sure they're not impressed with all that, and I'm sure that definitely has put a strain on that marriage because it's very embarrassing. Brian or Braun, Vince will bounce back from this. Again, he's 77. Will I even make 77? I'll knock on wood. I hope I can make it healthy, but like he's lived a long life and he's ran this company for decades. So I think at 77 years old, when a lot of people retire at 65, some even younger than that. And again, he still owns 80% of the stock and his family's still running the business. It's not like really too much is going to change. Gregory thinks Vince ruined pro wrestling. Well, I did like WWE in the 80s. I have to tell you. The Attitude Era wasn't bad, but the 80s was still my favorite era of WWE. Jim says it was about time he retired. Well, Jim, as I said in my Wrestling Observer review yesterday, I don't expect Stephanie McMahon, which let's see how old she is now, because I was questioning that yesterday. She's almost 47. We'll see if a 47-year-old woman running the company can turn things around. And for everyone saying how great NXT was when Triple H was running it, I don't believe NXT has ever profited from any of the reports I've read. And while some people like the NXT that Triple H ran with highlighting a lot of the smaller, spottier wrestlers, basically a lot like AEW is now, that's not my taste in wrestling. I know it's a lot of yours, but it's not mine. So to me, I don't see much changing for the better. And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I don't see much changing at all, to be honest with you, because it's a corporation. And PG-14, yeah, okay. So now it's going to be TV that 14-year-olds can watch. I'm in my late 30s, so there's not much 14-year-old programming that I want to watch. I'd rather watch alien-related stuff or consciousness-related stuff these days. Jay-Z, is Hogan laughing at Vince right now? I don't think Hogan probably cares that much, to be honest with you. Dan Masters, great ring announcer, says we've all been paying for it for years. Anthony says Vince will run the shit from home. Won't give up until his death. Yeah, there's what I heard from Mike D83, who is different than the other Mike D. Vince announced his retirement after Wall Street closed. Jack says Vince could be going to AEW. Jared, yeah, I've met Vince pretty much every time I worked as an extra in WWE, or because I was brought back like 14 times, even though I only had 2 matches, because sometimes in those days you would just be brought back and you do nothing if they didn't have anything for the extras to do. But I remember specifically one encounter with him where I was talking to Chris Benoit because I was in Stampede Wrestling at the time. And funny enough, Chris Benoit actually followed the Stampede Wrestling message board and was like talking to me, questioning me about like everything that was going on in Stampede Wrestling because he was still very interested in it. And I remember Vince McMahon came up to us and politely said, "Excuse me, nice to meet you. I'm Vince McMahon. Do you mind if I talk to Chris Benoit about something? We have some business to talk about." So I just remember he was very polite with his introduction to me. Like, even though I was just an extra, he was very nice about it. Because obviously what he had to talk to Benoit about was much more important than I don't even think I was doing anything that night. Chris liked my interview with Eric Watts. Yes, I highly suggest people watch that one. Hopefully he'll get me an interview with his father. What do I think about the other lawsuits like Ryback and others? I haven't really paid attention to Ryback's lawsuits. I try not to think about Ryback. I actually forgot about him. Thanks for reminding me. Try not to think about negative people. Hopefully he's more positive now than he was in the past. I'm trying to be a more positive person myself. Brian, what was my favorite Vince McMahon moment? I liked him as a commentator with Jesse Ventura. That might possibly have been my favorite commentary team. But you know what? My favorite Vince McMahon moment that I saw on September 9th, 1991, right here in Ottawa, Ontario, at the Ottawa Civic Center, where I later wrestled, was when Ric Flair made his debut and had that confrontation with Piper, and Vince McMahon accidentally got hit with the chair. That was right here in Ottawa, and I think that may have been the first bump I ever recall Vince taking on TV. There may have been more, but that's the first one I remember. But I just remember it was cool. That's the only time I ever saw Piper live, and it was cool that, like, because Ric Flair, I think he had 2 or 3 matches that night, plus that segment. So it was cool that, like, Ric Flair actually made his WWE debut in my town, because I was a wrestling fan and I knew who Ric Flair was. So I thought that was really cool. And on that note, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And if you live in the Ottawa area, speaking of Ottawa, tickets are on sale now at ticketweb.ca for the September 3rd Great North Wrestling event in the Ottawa Valley at the Petawawa Civic Center. More information at thehannibaltv.com. That will be the Hannibal TV taping. I got time tonight. I'll answer a couple more questions. Who was the stiffest wrestler I've ever been in the ring with? This guy at the WWE tryout I actually got hired from, and I think I told this story before on here. And I won't go into the whole story, but they put me in the ring against a guy that really had no idea how to wrestle and was literally punching me in the ear throughout the match, to at one point he punched me so hard in the ear I lost my hearing for a couple of seconds, which really freaked me out. So after the match ended, after the bell rang, I completely lost it. I did the match as a professional, but I threw a little fit, lost my cool because I was freaked out over losing my hearing, and told the guy to go out in the parking lot with me. And long story short, they were mad. They liked my performance, but they did not like the thing that I did after by slapping. But they liked me enough to give me another match after that in front or with a better wrestler. And Pat Patterson actually gave me the finish to the second match. And I ended up getting hired, but we all know the story. My contract didn't go through, but that piece of shit was the stiffest wrestler I ever wrestled, because like he really had no idea how to wrestle. And I think the people that didn't understand my anger, if they had been getting nailed in the ear, like with the punches in the ear, to the point where you lose your hearing for a few seconds, that'll freak a person out if you lose your hearing for a few seconds. And it got to me. Jay-Z, no, it was actually Ty Bailey and John Laurinaitis that hired me. The John Laurinaitis that's involved in that big scandal. Jared, yeah, I would say I'm still friends with Honky Tonk Man. Midnight Rider, no, there's no shoots with Giant Gonzalez. However, Harvey Whippleman talked about him in great detail in my interview with him today. Why isn't Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame? I think they still hold the grudge with him related to his surprise appearance on the first Nitro. Some people, they hold a grudge. Was that worse than what Alundra Blaze did? I don't know. RD said I would have been one of the greatest heels. Well, you know what? Pat Patterson did tell me that day that I was the best heel he'd seen in a long time. And he actually even told me that a lot of workers that become stars do have temper issues like I had, but honestly, my temper's a lot better these days. But he just said you can't do those temper issues until you get hired and get your push. So I thought that was kind of funny. The hottest diva I ever went out with. Well, I'm going to stop talking about girls on this channel, at least for the meantime, because honestly, it just gets me in a lot of shit and it's not worth it. Cameron, yeah, maybe it has to do with the Elizabeth situation too. Maybe they don't want the heat over Lex Luger's alleged abuse allegations and all that stuff, which he talked about in his interview with me, which you can look up, Lex Luger, the Hannibal TV interview. And on that note, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Had some good workouts today. I'm going to bed early, and I'm going to be at the gym first thing in the morning tomorrow. I actually had amazing workouts today, to be honest, and I won't get into too many details on that. But, yeah, I'm not going to say anything further about my cardio workout, which lasted a very long time. You guys can use your imagination on that one. Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please help me out and like this video. Then click the subscribe and get notifications buttons so you don't miss any of my latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Facebook at The Hannibal TV for more live streams and videos. And while you're at it, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Hannibal TV.